Lads, Newcastle against Chelsea is coming up in the Premier League this weekend. Two injury-hit teams colliding. Nick, I'm going to come to you straight away with a big picture question before we get into the focus on this game in particular. Who do you think will finish higher out of these two teams at the end of the season?
Chelsea.
Okay.
I think that they're very good, first of all. They're going to take some time to figure out Pochettino completely, but what else are they focusing on right now? And I just think it for a club of that depth with that many good players, and probably going to address something in January for some reason, somehow find more money, barring some sort of bizarre table punishment. I just think Chelsea is going to navigate their schedule easier because it's easier than Newcastle, who, injuries aside, again, you mentioned both these teams are injury hit. The Magpies do look set to still be playing in Europe deep into the year. And unless they finish fourth in their Champions League group, then I just think Chelsea has an easier road.
Yeah. Andy, do you agree with that? Because obviously Nick is our resident Newcastle fan here. So maybe he's been playing down the Newcastle angle a little bit. But part of me feels like Newcastle can still hang on and be up there in the top 4 or 5 throughout this season. But Chelsea just kind of lurking ominously, right? I think everyone thinks, oh, they've figured it out now under Pochettino, and they're only going in one direction.
Yeah, I think I lean that way, and agree with Nick slightly. We've seen a lot of not good and maybe even bad Chelsea results this season. We've seen a lot of good Chelsea performances, and I think while we've seen a lot of favorable results for Newcastle, we've maybe not seen the performances to match them thus far, and obviously, to Nick's point, having Champions League midweek 4 or 5 times already now, with still a couple more games to go, like that factors into it, and that's something that Chelsea typically has to deal with. And so I go back to the numbers. They're second in expected goals in the Premier League this season. They're fifth in expected goals against in the Premier League this season. Talking about Chelsea, like they have been so incredibly solid performance-wise this season, with either some terrible finishing or 1 or 2 just mental lapses that have cost them 2 points or even 3 points in a game. And so I fast forward to May, and I'm already annoyed at how good this Chelsea team is setting up to be next season. And the fact that they've already passed Tottenham in the Premier League hierarchy, and they are one of those teams that I think we're looking at and saying, okay, locked into the top 4 next season, whether or not they have, I don't know, Europa League, maybe Europa Conference League to deal with next season. Chelsea will be back, and they'll be back sooner than a lot of people probably want them to be.
I could really hear the pain in your voice as a Tottenham fan as you said that there. But no, it's fair enough. They are heading in the right direction. And I think as soon as they get some of these injured players back, like Newcastle, they're a team that's trending in the right direction. They are to be feared, and they're only going to get better. Nick, we talked about Newcastle, obviously the juggling Champions League and Premier League action. They got a huge Champions League match a few days after this one away at PSG, which, potentially their future in the competition hinges on that one. I mean, when we look at their attack, I think that's the biggest problem right now, isn't it? But with Callum Wilson going down with an injury, Alexander Isak looks like he may be available for this one, which will be a boost, but there's not really many other players left in that kind of third of the pitch, right? They've been running the same guys out there time and time again. And it was surprising, not surprising, but I guess surprising because you associate with an Eddie Howe team and this Newcastle team in particular, the energy, the intensity, the directness of their play. And all of that was missing in that shocking defeat away at Bournemouth before the break, right? But that was just a team that was running on empty after all their exertions in the Champions League and Premier League. So, I mean, going forward up top, I mean, does it all just rest on wrapping Alexander Isak and Cotton Wool and hoping for the best?
There's part of that. Callum Wilson doesn't have the best history of holding up for long stretches of time as well, and they don't have much depth at center forward. The bigger issue for me is all the ancillary pieces are getting hurt too. You've got some incredible, surprising performances out of Jacob Murphy. You were hoping for more from Harvey Barnes. He's out for a while. Sven Botman is arguably their most important piece. Jamal Lascelles has really stepped up in his wake, but he's been out now a month longer than you expected. And of course, the Sandro Tonali suspension. So I honestly think this sets up to be a pretty scrappy affair. And I think maybe that sets up for Newcastle, because I imagine Eddie Howe is walking into this. And you mentioned the PSG game being important. You're going to Paris. You just want a point. You want a point however you can get it. You may see some sort of bizarre trying to lock down Mbappe 5 at the back sort of situation there. So I think they probably go for it here. And that probably plays into their hands. And I would attack, because you know what? I don't know how you guys have felt, and maybe I'm just being a little bit too bright and biased here, because I've enjoyed watching them. The Colwill injury is something that I think will affect Chelsea, because he's been so versatile, whether he's been playing at kind of a left back or whether he's been in the middle. He has been as advertised, and why they hung on to him. And missing Nkunku as well, right? I think this could be scrappy. Is rain in the forecast? I know it's England, but is rain in the forecast? Because that's what I expect at St. James Park.
Probably rain and a lot of wind up there. Yeah, biting cold. When we look at Chelsea, Andy, like the 4-4 draw against Man City before the break highlighted everything that's been good about them in recent weeks. They finally found the scoring touch. Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling, Conor Gallagher seem to really be setting the high pressing for that team and that unit, and it's almost clicked, right? Nicholas Jackson, of course, getting goals as well. But Nick mentioned it there, Colwill being out, Thiago Silva still carrying on and still getting out there each week. Robert Sanchez in goal, Reece James just coming back, but still not 100%. Just defensively a little bit with Chelsea. That is maybe the area where I'm thinking, like Nick mentioned, if Newcastle really go at it and maybe score early and the crowd get up, then that's where I kind of fear for Chelsea a little bit in this game. They're still very young and as a team and as individuals. So that's going to be really key in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be, if that can happen, but I'm looking at the injuries and the availabilities, and even if Isak plays in this one, I wouldn't expect him to be at 100%. And I mean, if there is anything that a Maurizio Pochettino team loves, it's a scrap. And I do think I think this game will be that. I think they can do that home. I think they can do that away. I think they can do that against the 3-time defending champions. I think they can do that against a team that's struggling a little bit in the middle of the season with its first foray back into the Champions League. Can you tell how annoyed I am by buying into this Chelsea team? Because all the important pieces and building blocks and the concepts and the ideas that you need to build a strong team, not just for a season, but to build, and I always say this about Pochettino, he is a project manager. He is building his next probably great project, and we're seeing it happen in real time, but we're seeing it happen, I think, a lot quicker maybe than I expected and maybe some other people expected. So I look at this and I see a Chelsea team that is going to now have the confidence to go with all of the talent and everything that they had before the Manchester City game. Now they have the confidence of, we can go toe-to-toe with literally anyone in the world and match them touch for touch, pass for pass, shot for shot, goal for goal. And I think they're going to run with that. And so I would shade towards Chelsea in this game, even being away from home.
Yeah, what's your score pick? I'm going to go for 1-1. I think that they kind of just even out a little bit. But, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what you think.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll take the same score as I had for City of Liverpool. I'll go 2-1, but I'll go to the away side this time. They are going to grind this game out. In a way that I think we've gotten used to Newcastle doing to a lot of teams. And I think Chelsea are going to do it to them in this one.
Nick?
Man, there's an element of, as we say in hockey, not in our barn. And Newcastle's been pretty good at home. I expect them to get something out of this game. I'd be surprised if they won, for sure. I'd be surprised if they won, especially the way Gallagher is. I mean, speaking of guys who grind it out, but between Gordon, Trippier, Bruno, Gallagher, Enzo, yeah, this is going to be what do we say? An almighty scrap.
Almighty scrap. So, all right. It's going to be a good one. Newcastle against Chelsea. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest how to watch information, team news, reaction analysis, video highlights, and much more. Always brilliant when these two teams clash, especially at St. James's Park. And let's see if Chelsea can continue their resurgence, or if Newcastle, with all their injuries, they can scrap away and get another big win in front of the Geordie faithful.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.